So this is nothing super special, but still something that I can share. So here you see a tomato plant, and keep in mind which months we are in. So it's the middle of September, almost the end. And this plant put itself there. I did not put it there. And it is making flowers and wants to grow tomatoes. I'm pretty sure that it is extremely late and we might not harvest these tomatoes, but they will certainly be ripe enough to make sure that there is seed so that the tomato species continues to exist. And this is how it goes. So basically it started to grow once germinate and then grow once the temperatures went down, once the scorching heat of summer came to an end, which is basically the end of August. So therefore it is so late. Of course, in this area, people who grow tomatoes commercially, they start them early in a greenhouse and then plant them out so that by August they are already harvested. But here you have it. This is what nature does by itself. So next to this is Thai basil, which is also self-seeded. We planted it there the year before, but it is coming back. And there's some garlic in there also. We harvested some, but not all. And the garlic that we did not harvest, this is from the garlic that is in there. Of course, the soil isn't really very good for all these things, but with every cycle it becomes better. So there is more of these garlic plants. There's some chive, which I put there, and there's also some coriander, cilantro there in the back. I'm not so sure about that, which doesn't look like coriander, so I want to wait, not sure. But here I seeded some salad, and I just put the drip irrigation line the way you see to make this germinate. And hopefully in a few days we see little salad plants. It's a type of salad, not sure how you call it in English. You will see soon that we can cut and cut and cut, and it comes back like it were a grass until the frost comes. So that should serve us well. So we basically have a second growing season. That is the point. And once we get around to do this little detail of putting on finally a shade cloth here on top of that, probably a lot more things during the summer will also work in the shade of that. But then of course these trees there, they will also provide shade once they have grown. And we have started to look to get a few additional trees, fruit trees, figs for example, to put here, because now this area becomes grassy and is irrigated by these wobblers there. They irrigate on both sides. So basically there where the car is sitting, the front part gets completely wet. So this is how far the water flies. And that also means that basically this is the line that the grasses will eventually conquer. And for the rest of the part we would need other irrigation, but that comes later. So here the immediate plan is to add some trees here and also there on the other side. And then we have a working system that is nice, and we can easily irrigate this. Speaking about the irrigation, this takes per hour 4,500 liters, so 4.5 cubic meters of water, at least once a day, if not 2 times a day. So there you have an idea what our water requirements are. And of course we could use drip irrigation just for the trees, but that would not provide the grasses here. And those are grasses that I have not seeded. This is just from the seed that is in the soil. The only thing that I do is I cut them every 4 days. So in order to suppress the other plants that would grow there in favor of the grasses that I would like to have here. So I'm managing the ecological succession by chop and drop. Not long ago, this tree looked very sad. Suddenly it has a few yellow leaves, but also other leaves that are much bigger than before. Sunlight and water, and the temperatures are not too high, so it is almost 30 degrees Celsius now. That makes the whole difference. Before, when we were at 40 degrees Celsius, these palovnias, they also grew, but of course providing them enough water was a challenge. Now suddenly all this goes quite nice, and as you can see, we're making good progress until summer is completely over. And the Bermuda grass that we are going to fight later on is also covering the whole area. We want to have this all over the place and then mark some places where we don't want to have it. But we need to have ground cover so that the moisture stays in for as long as possible. And of course, we get the soil life going. And when we turn this into a garden area where we want to grow something, then of course all this is biomass, all the roots that we have in the ground by then. It is not my intention to do this in the perfect way, but I wanted to remove a few of the lower branches so that there is a trunk that is not covered with too many leaves, so that the water can pass through and get to the other side. So these trees should provide shade but not become a hedge. They won't, I would think, but if I let all these low-hanging branches there with the big leaves, then water is not coming through to the other side. So now that is a little bit open, not too much, because some of these branches are too good to be removed, for example those that are left here. And my intention is not to overdo it. They have grown very, 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 very well. I did not expect this to be like that, especially given the frost damage in early May. So this is a very pleasant surprise. And supposedly tonight we will be getting some rain. There on the other side you might see a big build-up. So this is kind of an announcement of what to come. The forecast is some 50%. So something might develop over the next few hours. So far, sky is clear, but it feels kind of coldish. And that is definitely because of the changing weather. So for the early morning hours, the forecast says some rain, and then also 2 days later, the long-term forecast says the same. So we might get lucky, which would be very nice. So I just came out here, not to film, but to get some fresh air, and I see this. I don't know exactly what that is. Lemna? It would be very nice if it were. So let's zoom in a little bit. So this is definitely a very positive thing. The pond has filled itself. We had no rain. And you see the buoy, the flotation device, there, this red can. And since we took out the pond, the pump, this was left there, and it serves as a marker. So it was a little bit lower, and this is probably as high as it gets by seeping in from the ground. So this is basically the lowest level that it can fill up to by itself. There is no rain. Now this is an interesting data point. And what I can mention now that I talk about this, I think I mentioned it before, is that we have an idea, once we make this wider to store more water, how we can use all this water that you see right now, because it's a lot, without damaging a pump. So we basically built a well inside of this, an area that is free of sediment, and that is where the pump will live. And then the pump can pump out the water as much as possible. Everything all around could fall dry, but the place where the pump is still has some water, minimal amount, so that the pump won't be damaged, and there will be no sediment that then creates a problem for the motor of the pump, so that it won't burn out and things like that. It will shut off before, because there is a device that shuts off the pump when the water level gets too low. So basically the pump will sit in a protected area at the lowest point, and then we can use this water that you see right now. Right now we are using the well that is over there where the solar panel is for a minimum amount of irrigation, and I want to see what they did. It's not perfect. We have a plan and also a quote from a supplier for building a system for next season to irrigate properly with a lot more water. But of course it depends on the money, and once that becomes available for next year, we can then do this with all the lessons learned. And yeah, lessons learned is important. If I would be doing this for 40 years, then of course I would know what is necessary and so on, but then I would be a farmer. I have 40 years of experience in developing software and how to do related things, but I'm not a farmer. So all these things is new, but my profession has taught me enough to be able to understand complex issues, but understanding and resolving problems is not the same. I can understand quickly, but the solution takes a long time and requires collaborators and all the other stuff that I talked about. So now that I'm here, the light situation is not perfect, but this phone makes a pretty good job. So you can see what a little bit of irrigation does. And let me go through here to show you this in a bit more detail. So you see there is something growing at the bottom of these trees, and those trees are not dead, because you can see there at the top there is some green, so they have survived. Maybe not all of them, but most. So we came close of losing them all. So this one, for some reason, wants to grow like this, but is completely greened up. We will do something to keep this upright, but not with that. We are fixing other things that are important before the rain comes. So this is therefore not the highest priority. But you see that most of them are becoming green, and also the ground here is soft, and there is Bermuda grass and other things growing. This one here might be a failure, but who knows? Here is the sensor that is reporting. So the moisture levels are okay. So this will be the hedge that I wanted to have here in this area. And I do have some cypress seeds. Of course, I will only plant them in a pot once we have a proper nursery. What we have right now is a place to keep the leftovers, and of course we try, instead of outright deciding no, we throw these plants away. But it's not perfect, but some are still there, and we will plant them at some point. So here, even in this low light situation, there is also an improvement. Of course, it's not perfect. Perfect you can see there in the background there. If the light holds, I can show you that in a little bit more detail. And lower temperatures makes irrigation with limited amounts of water a little bit easier, and that's what I did over the last few days. Every time there was an opportunity to do it, and I'm happy to see that the sun hemp is now making flowers. So this will come along. But then, like I said a few times, we don't have this as a cash crop. We don't want to harvest it. It is just there to have some roots in the ground, something living, something that it is better than all the dryness. And of course it proved that we do not have enough water to irrigate this properly. If that were the case, then things would look like there, yeah, like this, there behind the oak tree. Because there is always a drip, and that creates what you see now. So this is how sun hemp can look like. This is taller than 2 meters. I have never seen it like that, not even on pictures. So that's a good data point. That definitely helps So there's even one here on the outside. So this is sun hemp. And the camera is already below that. So the camera now has become basically useless because it just films the plant that is in front of it. But it's very nice. Because it's just that patch. There are a few other of these patches that are better than others. Most of this, if this were a cash crop, it would be a failure. But like I said, it's all about learning and growing something. And none of that is total loss. So all the material that has been used, we will continue to use. So this is not a one-time thing. It failed and now let's throw this and cut the losses. Yeah, throw this away and cut the losses. No, that is not what we will be doing. It has served its purpose. We learned a bunch of things, and one thing that I can mention, so you see here those water lines, they are 25 millimeter lines, and we discovered that it's much better to use 1 inch on the inside and 32 millimeters on the outside lines. So this is basically the wrong material. So we should have the bigger pipe between those wobblers and also bigger risers. But between trees, for example, this is enough for sun hemp and friends if there is enough water available, and also the Bermuda grass. So if you don't need a lot of flow, then of course this works very well. But the water that we had available was not enough. So once we have the larger ponds, plural, then we should have enough. And we stretched ourselves a little bit. And for something commercial, that would be a failure, as I keep saying. But it wasn't. It was a test, an experiment. Now, next time, when we do something commercial, meaning to plant paulownia trees here for a commercial purpose, then we can now use all this that we learned and not fail. Because not failing is the idea.